Canada has just recorded the most dominant victory of its football history, and they did it on the biggest stage the sport has to offer. In Vancouver on Thursday, Jonathan David scored a hat-trick as Canada demolished Qatar 6-0, securing their first ever win at a Men's World Cup finals. But behind the historic scoreline was a match that descended into chaos, marked by 2 red cards and a serious injury that has cast a shadow over an otherwise spectacular night for Canadian football. Let us start with the raw numbers, because they tell a story that Canada has waited decades to write. This is Canada's first ever victory in Men's World Cup finals history. Before tonight, the Canadian men's national team had never won a single match at this level. Tonight, they did not just win. They obliterated an opponent by 6-0. That margin of victory also places Canada in extremely rare historical company. A 6-goal winning margin by a host nation equals the record set by Italy in 1934, Brazil in 1950, and Argentina in 1978. Canada, playing as co-host of this tournament alongside the United States and Mexico, has now matched some of the greatest host nation performances in World Cup history. The match took place at BC Place in Vancouver, in front of a crowd dressed almost entirely in red. From the opening minutes, the energy inside that stadium was electric, and Canada wasted no time giving their fans something to celebrate. The breakthrough came in the 16th minute. Jonathan David sent a long volley toward goal that Qatar's goalkeeper Mahmoud Abunada could only punch away. But the ball fell perfectly into the path of Ismael Kone, the 31-year-old veteran striker, who had earned his starting spot after scoring as a substitute in Canada's opening match draw against Bosnia and Herzegovina, made no mistake from close range. Kone celebrated by pointing to his ears, drinking in the deafening roar from the home crowd. Canada led 1-0. 13 minutes later, Jonathan David put his name directly on the scoresheet. In the 29th minute, he met a cross with a thunderous right-footed volley from distance that gave Abunada absolutely no chance. This was a significant moment for David personally. It marked his first goal from open play in more than a year, ending a frustrating scoring drought that had followed him through recent club and international matches. Canada now led 2-0, and the match was already swinging decisively in their favor. Then came the turning point that changed everything. In the 33rd minute, Qatar's Homam Ahmed went into a challenge on Canada's Tajon Buchanan. The referee initially pointed to the penalty spot, awarding Canada a spot kick and showing Ahmed a yellow card. But after a video assistant referee review, the officials determined the foul had actually occurred just outside the penalty area. The penalty was overturned and replaced with a free kick. However, the review also upgraded Ahmed's yellow card to a straight red. Qatar were reduced to 10 men, and their World Cup dream was... Despite the heaviness of that moment, the match continued, and Canada continued to add to their tally. Nathan Saliba, who had come on as a substitute for the injured Kone, scored from a free kick in the 64th minute to make it 4-0, with Qatar reduced to 9 players and visibly demoralized. Canada continued pressing forward, eventually completing the scoring with a 5th goal and a stoppage-time own goal to bring the final tally to 6-0. Canada's head coach Jesse Marsch had shown faith in his squad selection, particularly in starting Ismael Kone after his impact off the bench in the opening match. That decision was vindicated emphatically. Marsch, an American who previously managed in European football before taking charge of the Canadian national team, has now overseen the most significant victory in the program's history at a World Cup finals. There was also a notable presence in the stands for this historic occasion. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney attended the match in person, having missed Canada's tournament opener in Toronto the previous week due to his attendance at the G7 summit in France. For Carney to witness this particular result in person adds another layer of national significance to what was already a landmark night for Canadian sport. Let us talk about what this result means for the bigger picture of this World Cup group. Canada now sits top of Group B with 4 points after 2 matches, having opened the tournament with a draw against Bosnia and Herzegovina before this dominant win over Qatar. With this victory, Canada has all but secured a place in the knockout stages, needing only to avoid a heavy defeat in their final group match to confirm their progression. Their next opponent will be Switzerland, who also sit on 4 points after 2 matches and head into their meeting with Canada in Vancouver next Wednesday as the other team controlling its own destiny in this group. Switzerland had earlier in the tournament defeated Bosnia and Herzegovina 4-0, showing they to possess significant attacking quality. The Canada versus Switzerland match now effectively becomes a contest to determine who tops Group B heading into the knockout rounds. For Qatar, the outlook is considerably bleaker. This result leaves them at the bottom of Group B, with just 1 point from 2 matches. Qatar had opened their tournament with a surprising stoppage time equalizer to draw 1-1 against Switzerland, suggesting they might be more competitive than many expected. Tonight's result erased any of that optimism entirely. Qatar are still searching for their first ever World Cup win. Having lost every single group match when they hosted the tournament back in 2022, the pattern of struggle at the highest level continues for Qatari football. Despite the immense resources the country has invested in developing the sport domestically, there is also a human dimension to this story that goes beyond the scoreline. Ismael Kone's injury serves as a sobering reminder of the physical toll this tournament takes on players, even amid celebrations of historic victories. Reports following the match indicated Kone suffered a broken leg, an injury that will likely end his involvement in this World Cup entirely and require a significant recovery period afterward. For a young player who had been part of Canada's growing core of talent, this is a deeply unfortunate outcome on what was otherwise a night of celebration for his teammates and his country. Jonathan David's performance deserves particular attention given the broader context of his career. It's Canada's all-time leading goal scorer. David has long been considered one of the most talented attacking players to ever represent the country. However, he had been working through a relatively quiet scoring period before this match, making his first goal from open play in over a year all the more significant. A hat-trick on this stage in a match this important represents exactly the kind of performance that can define a player's World Cup legacy. For David personally, this match may well be remembered as the moment he fully arrived on football's biggest stage. Looking ahead, Canada's remaining group match against Switzerland carries enormous weight. A win or even a draw would likely be enough to secure top spot in Group B. Setting up with the team and its growing fan base will hope is a favorable path through the seed, with knockout rounds. Co-hosting this tournament alongside the United States and Mexico has already brought unprecedented attention and expectation to Canadian football. And results like tonight's only intensify the belief that this could be the most successful World Cup campaign in the nation's history. Canadian football has waited a long time for a night like this, the first ever World Cup win, delivered in style with a 6-goal margin matching some of the greatest host nation performances in tournament history, in front of a passionate home crowd with the country's prime minister watching from the stands. The celebration was real, even as the concern for an injured opponent reminded everyone watching of the physical risks every player accepts when they step onto this stage. Subscribe right now. I will be covering Canada's crucial match against Switzerland and every twist of this World Cup as it continues to unfold. Comment below. Do you think Canada can top Group B and make a real run in the knockout stages? Drop your prediction below. See you in the next one.